Now to put in these chords, consider an A minor chord, right? So you have 5 notes from A. An A minor chord will just be 1, 3, and 5, like that. And if you have an A in the bass, it's still just an A minor chord. If you want to make an A minor 7, you move the 1, the A, down to a G. The 1 goes down to a 7th. It's a lot easier than trying to count up to it. You just go down a step. And that's your A minor 7. Fly me to the moon. So this is your D minor 7. This is what you call a voicing. An inversion in a sense. Here you have a D minor chord. And my advice is move that so you got middle C in the middle of it. And that's going to be really smooth then. Still move that D down to a C. You have a D minor 7. So your first chord is going to be fly me to the moon. If you use this principle, then it's pretty cool because you only really have to read 3 notes in the treble clef. You have the E, which is the bottom line on the treble clef. You have the F, which is the bottom space on the treble clef, and you have D, which is the first space below the staff. In other words, right below the E you have this D. So you can read those 3 notes, then all you got to do is look at the shapes. So remember how we found that first chord going down to the 7th. So you have the first A minor, it's going to be E on top, G on the bottom, and the 3rd finger in the middle. Put an A on the bottom, and you have A minor 7. And if you just skip down a line, you can go. You'll see that over there you got A, C, and E. Under the word, over the word "let me," see what spring is like. You have "let," and this is just a triad: A, C, and E. If you put an F on the bottom, however, it makes it an F major 7. It's sort of like an A minor chord over an F, but it's always would be called an F major 7. And then the other chord that has an E on top has a G on the bottom also, sort of like the A minor 7. But instead of using the middle finger, use the 2nd finger, index finger. So it's an E, then G, and an index finger, B. Put a C on the bottom and you get a C major 7. And that's the first time you do, in other words, hold my hand, C major 7. It also is a half note over the word stars, right? Fly me to the moon and let me play among the stars. C major 7, if you want it to be just a plain C7, you have to take this B down to a B flat. But it's still going to be a 6th. In other words, E on top, G on the bottom, index finger in the middle on a B flat. So that's C7, This is what you call C major 7. If you have an F on top, there's only one chord you got to learn, and that's D minor 7, the second chord in the piece. So in this case, you have an F on top, A on the bottom, and the index finger on C. Put a D on the bottom, you have a D minor 7. And then the other chords have a D on the top, right? So the third chord in the piece, and let me play, I'm going to have a D on top, an F on the bottom, and the third finger in the middle of it, like that. Put a G on the bottom, and you got play among the stars. So you notice when I'm doing that, I usually use my third finger here, play among the, and I move to my second finger when on the same note when I go to the C major 7. If you're on this G major 7, G7, right? The index finger, with the third finger in the middle, and you change that to having the index finger instead, and you put a B on the bottom in the bass, then you have what's called B minor 7 flat 5, B half diminished. So that's another chord that has a D on top, but it has the second finger here instead of the third finger. G7, and this would be B minor 7 flat 5. And after that, you got sort of a complicated thing. E7 flat 9. Keep these same two notes, but you play two notes here, a G sharp and a B. So you use that 1, 2, 3, and 5. Put an E on the bottom, and you have the chord for Jupiter. Jupiter and Mars. This is what you call a diminished chord. And if you put an E on the bottom of it, in this case you have an E7 flat 9. There's only one other chord, very simple, which is an E minor 7. If you look on the third line, in other words, hold my hand. If you do that first turnaround, you're going to have an E minor 7, and that's just going to look like G, A, B, C, D. A G chord, a G triad over an E. Pretty easy to recognize that, right? E minor 7, which will go to A7. And then D minor 7. So let me try to go all the way through. Go. Fly me to the moon, D7, and let me play, that's G7, among the stars. We switch to C7. Here's F major 7. Let me see what spring. B minor 7 flat 5 is like on Jupiter, and that's your E7 flat 9. Jupiter and Mars. Change to an A7 by moving your C up to the C sharp. And back to D7. In other words, G7. Hold my hand. C major 7. Now a little turnaround. E minor 7, A7. In other words, 7 flat 9. Fill my heart with song and let me sing forevermore. You are all I long for, all I worship and adore. A7. In other words, please be true. In other words, I love you. This would be a C6. If you had a C major 7, it would be with a B. Move that down to an A, and you have a voicing for C6.